Yes, so today I'm really excited to be having a little summer session with you. And actually, today is the summer solstice, which is so amazing for us to spend this day together and these next hour and a half or so together. And I'm also really excited to be introducing our guest speaker for tonight, who is Jovana Durovic. And she is someone who inspires me on a daily. She's been a big part of my own transformation on so many levels. Her wisdom is always such a refreshing perspective. And she's definitely someone that offers a lot of grounding and a lot of it's hard to put in words, but a feeling to be excited about all that's yet to come. And I think that's very rare to find in the soul. So I thought it's the perfect complement to our last session of the summer together. And so without further ado, I will introduce her. And Jovana, welcome. And thank you so much for being here with us. And we would love to start off with an introduction about yourself, like who are you? And just tell us a little bit about yourself before we get rolling.
Yes, sure. Thank you, Farah, for amazing introduction, first of all. But yeah, my name is Jovana, and it's also sometimes hard to describe myself in one word or in one phrase. But basically, I'm gravitating towards a lot of different topics, and I always try to combine them. But in short, I'm a Kundalini yoga teacher and practitioner. I'm a creative strategist. That's basically my daily job that I enjoy to do very much. And yeah, right now I'm based in Denmark, but I used to live in Italy, and originally I'm from Montenegro. And yeah, I'm someone who deeply believes in human potential, let's say, and I think I love that intersection between ancient teachings and innovation, because I think those two have a lot in common.
Amazing, thank you. And Jovana, recently you started your own business, and that business is called Humanize. Can you tell us a little bit about that, and as well what called you into that direction and what you hope to achieve in that space?
Yes. So basically, Humanize is let's say a community-based platform, which is basically both educational and inspirational. And it exists to help people to develop these skills for 21st century, or also known as soft skills. Because I also believe, personally, I'm very interested in futurology and trend research and human psychology. And I think in the future, and according to a lot of research, we will have quite a different workspace and workforce, and in general life, we need to approach it in a very different way. And I think the scarcest and the most valuable resource won't be anymore the capital or ordinary labor. It's going to be people with ideas, and something that cannot be replaced or digitized or automated by all these digital technologies. So also according to a lot of leaders and futurologists, they anything that cannot be digitized or automated will be extremely valuable, and that's usually those human only traits, and that's a whole list of these soft skills basically. So that's all about adaptability, creativity, intuition, imagination, leadership, communication, collaboration, and so on. So it's just something that we cannot teach the machine to do. They still will need us humans. So yeah, that's, I think, the short overall.
Amazing. And I think it's so easy for us to branch out into so many different topics and conversations. And I think we together have had so many conversations, and some where even people listen in on us and they're like, hey, what are you talking about? That sounds so interesting. But it's just a lot of it is quite abstract. And I think there's so much value that your experience and your path and your journey can also bring to the community. So, what is something that you would like to bring up for the topic tonight? Insights that can be valuable for our community from your own area of work and your own path and your own journey.
It's I'm just going to reflect what you said earlier. It's interesting. We do have summer solstice today, and that's basically the day, at least in the northern hemisphere, the day with a lot of solar activity and power of the energy of the sun. So anything is very prone to growth. I mean, if you see the garden and nature, everything is popping. It was always this like auspicious time, with a lot of these ancient civilizations. They would gather around and they would celebrate it, and they would kind of use this universal push into growth and change. But I think very often we are afraid of the change, because again, it's easy to say go change and transform your life. It's very we still have a lot of blockages there. And I think what would be interesting definitely is to talk and to explore this kind of a topic of the fear, especially fear of the future and change. But we fear, we have different fears and different anxieties, but I think what we all, it's a very human kind of trait, is to fear the unknown. And we also saw it from the past 2 years, the pandemic. So it can be applied on both like globally and personally. We have a lot of fear of the unknown. So I think that's something that interests me personally very much, especially in these times.
Interesting. Yeah, when we had a conversation a couple of days ago, while walking through the park, and we were talking about the future and leadership and what those journeys can look like, you said something that I haven't heard about before, and that is, or considered before, or reflected on, and that's the fear of the future. Right. Usually think about different fears and all that, but the fear of the future as a concept in itself was very intriguing, right, in that sense. And so could you elaborate more on the link between fear and leadership to start off with, and then we can dive even deeper into that space?
Yes. So basically, fear, as I said, it's very common and a human trait, and we shouldn't escape, and kind of like we should acknowledge the presence of fear. And I think in leadership, the I also personally, I don't believe in that word fearless, at least in English. It's to me, it's a very paradoxical word, because fearless means that you don't have fear. And I think sometimes the bravest thing that people can do is to act on something despite still feeling the fear. And I think some of the best leaders out there are ones who kind of like respond despite of fear. And some of the worst leaders are fearless, basically. So I think that's also very interesting to kind of reflect. And also, what does it mean to respond and to react? Because usually like responding is very mindful practice. It comes always from the pause and from the wider awareness of something. And reaction is always instinctive, impulsive, and usually very fear-based. So I think we can definitely learn something about the whole topic of fear, and apply it in different leadership style.
And so, just a little bit off of that as well. And if we think about fear and leadership, usually when in leadership, there are many fears that we experience, right? We experience the fear of maybe our work not being good enough, not appreciated, not recognized, maybe our clients not being satisfied with what is being presented, maybe our team not feeling motivated, inspired. In the case of some of our industry leaders, maybe their community not engaging with their content, not connecting with it, not resonating. So, in those instances, how would you what how would we be able to shift from this fear-based leadership into a leadership where the emotions are rooted in something more positive like love, but also how can we generate the awareness to notice when there's a fear-based emotion happening in that space, and turn it into something that serves us instead?
So basically everything comes what you preach as well. Live in the moment and reflect and go slow, because only then you would be able to have a wider picture. And again, it's a very natural thing to fear of the future and unknown, because we don't know what's out there. And there are so many possibilities for something good to happen, and so many possibilities for something negative and bad that we don't want to happen. So in that case, it's quite natural. But I think the biggest kind of like a very soothing thing to do in those situations is definitely mindfulness and trust. There is this sense of soothing yourself and the others, where you have that inner trust in what you do, how you do it, and also it takes practice in just sitting down and being like holding that space of, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. There's a huge, not a lot of people can do. Usually what we do is we jump and act, again, acting and not responding. So we kind of want to do something about it. But the bravest and most difficult thing is to sit down and just, because again, keep in mind that fear is always in the mind. That's where the fear is. So it's a practice, and it's a mindfulness practice.
It's so interesting as well that humans are afraid of the unknown and they're afraid of what's uncertain. And that means that we're looking for security and we're looking for groundedness. And it's also a very big statement, like you said earlier, that because we have this fear, going towards something that is unknown despite our fear is where we find all the growth and where we find all the treasures and where we find all the new experiences and learnings about ourselves. And I think it's just such an insightful detail to just keep in mind that as humans, our nature is to just want to know everything. We just want to know, right? If we don't know, it creates all these emotions, but all these emotions are telling us things. We're learning, we're evolving, we're growing. So I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, I
um,
agree.
so what about, could you describe a little bit to us how you see leadership of the future with all
Mhm.
that's happening and all that's going on, and also the world and a lot of companies trending towards well-being and mental health? I think as thriving impact leaders, it's really important that we're able to harness the well-being not only of ourselves, I think that's so important, but of those around us. So how do you see the future of leadership within that humanized space?
Hmm. I definitely see it as something very different than what we have now. I mean, a lot of people are onboarding and trying to lead this change, but I think there is also a very interesting book. It's called the Future Leader. Maybe later I can also give the name of the author, but basically they analyzed a lot of different big CEOs and their leadership style, and just to see where is the red thread. And what they realized is that there is this, let's say, like an idea of an explorer leader that is explorer. So basically, leader who embraces the unknown, and someone who would, of course, change the course as the world around them evolves, let's say, but someone who definitely practice curiosity. And I feel like, if you ask me, I feel like also there is a lot of thing that can help us to kind of like navigate this fear of the unknown, is the language itself. Like, it's very, even on a personal level, sometimes you can say, I'm nervous, but also you can also use the word, you can say, I'm excited. And that's, you're describing the same feeling. It's still fear based, but nervousness and excitement is just on a different vibration. So I think that's really interesting to be mindful of the language we are using. We are not kind of like a gaslighting, and we are not refusing to see something or going into this toxic positivity. It's more how you use your language, words as well.
So it comes down to the communication in that sense. So the future leadership is going to be a lot about the right communication, but then also allowing space for humans to be humans.
Yeah, and also allowing the change, which is a big one, not trying to control everything. And again, also changing, carving the path as the world, and the circumstances change, because we cannot know that in advance. But when we are approached and when these things are in front of us, then we can again respond accordingly, let's say.
You mentioned a big one, which is letting go of control, right? And I think a lot of the conversations have been coming up lately with different people in different spaces, just talking about, how it was such a journey for them to let go of control, letting go of an outcome, letting go of how something could be. And so,
Yeah.
how can we change towards that? And why would you say it's important that we seek to change and to better in that space?
Mm. So basically, this is very interesting. As you said, like letting go of control, sometimes it can be even almost paralyzing to let go of the control. But very often, when we do it, then we realize how liberating it is. And I'm just gonna quickly reflect on yogic transition, the tradition and the philosophy. It's basically, we have these, at least in Kundalini tradition, we have these two parts of ourselves. So one is something we call ego. And when we say ego, we don't mean, it's not a symbol and a synonym for arrogance or self-centeredness. Ego is, in yogic approach, means some identification to something, like you putting yourself in a box, you identifying yourself with a role maybe, or just something where you say I am, and whatever you say after that, that's your identification. And then there is another part of us that is like way bigger than ego. Some people call it soul, depending of course on your views. Some people think that that's God in us because we are created by the image of God. Some people say that it's even scientifically that it's just a higher consciousness, however you want to call it. That's something very connected to the unknown. And usually it's so vast and so mysterious and unknown that it's even difficult to put it into words. So I think there's a really interesting concept with the island and ocean, because island is that identification that we have, this limited self, human in us. But then ocean is that very vast unknown. So in a way, like ocean and a drop, let's say. So I think we definitely, when it comes to change, when we think and when we are kind of identified with something, there is not much space for growth, because we are just taking one portion of that, let's say, ocean, and we can be so much more. And it's the same, like for example with the butterfly, it needs to go into that like a cocoon phase and metamorphosis and just go with the change. And if we look around, I mean, the whole nature and everything is changing. It's just a natural process, and everything in the nature and the universe is expansion. So if you want to stop the expansion, you're always gonna approach and witness resistance and pain and suffering if you refuse to change.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been talking a lot about that lately, being aware as well of the limitations that we set on ourselves. And I think even when you give the island to the ocean analogy, it's interesting to just think about each and every single one of us when you thought about that island. How small was it? Or how big was it? That's also a reflection of how you see perhaps your capacity amidst such a big ocean of possibilities. And sometimes limitations are there. And I also appreciate the note around the roles that we assume. whether it's at work, whether it's with friends, whether it's with relationships, whether it's with ourselves, what is the role that we assume? Are we the entertainer? Do we take care of all those around us? Are we victimizing ourselves? What is the story that we tell ourselves in relation to those around us? And it's really important to ground ourselves and to have that time to reflect and challenge those roles, so that when we do go into the space of impact leaders and we start guiding communities and audiences and we work with people and interact with humans, that actually we can not project those roles or create narratives that maybe will make it harder for us to navigate in that space. And then that also intertwines with control and giving up control. And I think you're so right that when you can give up control, you do feel liberated. It's extremely difficult. It's
Yes.
extremely difficult, no matter what kind of control it is. But when you let it go, you're just like, yeah, the universe is taking care of the universe, right?
Because it's
Yeah.
exactly, and it's very connected. That's why with the ego, because ego loves to control. Ego lives. That's why we have experience of life through ego. You have experience of life through Farah, and I have experience of life through me being Jovana, and the rest of us. So in that sense, ego loves to have control and loves to say, this is my territory, this is my role, this is my box that I'm fitting myself in, and I'm comfortable in this one. But then if you take out that box, or if you just remove any kind of role or identification, the ego doesn't know who am I now without this box. So for example, something that I like to give to my students, and it's a very extreme example, but it's nice to kind of get the concept of ego. Imagine a woman who was, her whole life was a role and identification of that woman was a mother. So she was a mother, and then suddenly when her kids grow up, or maybe even if she loses her kids, she's not a mother anymore. And then the question is, who am I now without this role? But she is much more than just a mother, or someone's sister, or someone's daughter, or someone's wife, or whatever role you have at the job, or someone's friend. There is something, that's that ocean analogy. There is so much, bigger, and we cannot even grasp the concept, because again, we have this limited part that is always gonna, even when I say to you oneness, as a language, as a barrier as well, we imagine one drop, so we always need to kind of like limit it, because it's super abstract. But yeah, we can go to many directions.
It's so interesting. And I think as well, when you talk about this, I need to get my train of thought back.
Mhm.
Then went into
Yeah,
three different train of thoughts. Okay, it will come back to me, but
yeah,
I
yeah,
really
yeah.
want to come back to that. But why does fear feel more real than hope or love or trust? Sometimes it's so easy for us to accept the scenario that doesn't work out for us, that doesn't go our way, that isn't the one that we wanted, versus us being like, you know what, no, I'm gonna get what I want, this is gonna happen, it's just a matter of due time. Why is it so easy to believe the fear-based emotions versus the higher vibrational emotions when we know that they serve us on a greater level?
Yeah, that's a good one. So, for example, in a yogic approach to this, they say that the fear of the unknown is basically a subconscious memory of the past.
Hmm.
So anytime you mention subconscious, and if we are operating in that realm, it's gonna be difficult. So in that sense as well, on top of that, fear is also a very, as I said before, very human characteristic. And fear, in a way, helped us to survive as a civilization. Like, fear kind of kept us safe. And fear is always gonna, whatever you do out of fear, it's not because we hate ourselves. It's basically because we are trying to help ourselves. Because the control and the fear and the danger is just something that we don't want. So again, fear is that kind of how do you call it, ingredients there to kind of help us to navigate that, basically. But so it's a mix of evolution as well in play, and again subconscious patterns, and again habits, because sometimes habits are really I think also interesting thing to reflect on, because depends how are you talking to yourself, and what kind of what are you saying to yourself out loud and inside your head, because sometimes habit is what makes you. Very often they would say, first we work on the habits and then the habits work on us. So whether it's a good one or bad one, it's a habit, so we will keep we are habitual creatures in that sense. So yeah, there is a lot to do with the practice and subconscious memories and all of that. So we need to, in a way, remind ourselves constantly.
That's very interesting as well, to reflect on that we are a makeup of our habits as well, or I guess our days are a makeup of our habits. And I think that's really interesting, because it invites us to say, okay, what are the habits, and what are the habits that we've always wanted to cultivate but we never got around to, or we do the first couple of days but then we don't go back to it, we don't complete it. And I think I have two questions for you. One is going back to the reflection about the mother, right? I think that was a really powerful example, because I do know a lot of moms, when their kids go off to school or they're just home again, they don't know who they are anymore. They don't know what to do, how to spend their time. It just feels so empty. And sometimes they don't even progress with the fact that their kids are now growing up and they take care of themselves and they make their own food. And so I also have some friends that are really tied to, or people in my network that are really tied to their career, right? They identify themselves with that title. But then that also invites us to ask ourselves, okay, if I didn't have this job, if I didn't have this network of friends, if I didn't have this identity, who would I be? And it always takes me back to this quote by Jim Carrey that he said on a show, where he was like, once I saw who I really was, I went into like an epiphany state. And I always wanted to ask him, like, what did you see? You know, like, tell us. But he doesn't say it. He just says, once I saw who I was. And I was like, oh my God, share it. But maybe it's too strong, or maybe it's too abstract for him to say it on national television. But what is the difference between that truth, which is us, which also in one of our slow mastermind sessions with Sat Sarvat and Satmur, they talked a lot about remembering who we are. And when we remember who we are, nothing really matters. We just feel high vibrational all the time. And then the second part is talking about the habits that formulate us. How are they different and how do they connect to each other?
Good one. um, I think to answer this, who we are, um, because I'm a Kundalini yoga teacher, and I deeply believe and resonate with these teachings. And one of the most like profound ones are these teachings that we are both ocean and island at the same time. So the sooner we accept that we have this human limited part of us, and we have this other very undying, vast kind of divine part in us, and they are both intertwined. One day you will see more of a human or animal in yourself, and the other times you would definitely see the more like a godly image of you. So I think definitely they are both, but habits definitely are like a tool that creates and that helps you to create the 2.0 version of you. And in a way, not even a version. I actually don't like this word version, because that means that there is someone better out there than what I am now. So in that sense, I don't like myself now. I want to go there, and I'm not in peace with this, what I am now. So it's actually very important sometimes to kind of, again, remind ourselves and remember that every stage and phase of who you are and the version of you is there for a reason, because of course you're going through a certain journey and path, but yeah, it's still a valid version of you, and yeah, habits are huge ones to help you. or to, if you're doing something habitual, but it's coming from a subconscious or unconscious level that you're not aware, then that's usually a problem very often with people.
Yeah, but that makes total sense. It makes total sense that you would be the island and you would be the ocean because you are that mix of that both. And I think that analogy visually just brings a lot of clarity, but then as well connecting that to habits, habits that are good for us, for example, like taking walks in nature, eating good food, being well rested, and trying to manage the thought patterns that we have in our minds, meditating, sitting in silence. These simple things can help us to see more of how we are both the island and the ocean. So do we have habits that are taking us further away from us, or do we have habits that are bringing us closer to
Yeah.
understanding more about us? And I think you're totally right about the term versions of ourselves, which is used a lot, because then you're just waiting for the next version and the next version. But actually, look at how far you've come to have this version. That's a lot of work. And I know for a lot of us in this space, all of us here together, I mean, we've been on this simplified retail model journey for quite a while, and there's been so much progress. And I've seen so many changes in different people's lives through their own experiences, just their own happenings, and all these things happening. And I think that this version always needs to be celebrated, or who you
Mm.
are in this moment, in this time. So I think that that
Yes,
was
and I
very,
think
yeah.
exactly, and just to mention something, it's actually a psychologically like a toolbox, let's say, or a tool from psychology that it can be quite useful. And again, it talks about what you also preach here. It's all about present moment. Is to imagine just for a moment that we don't have past, we haven't had past, we are like no one. There is not a past. We are not carrying anything, and we don't have future. We have the it's just a wall, it's like a blank slate. So just to train yourself in that space to actually just live in the present, that's very liberating always.
Yeah, totally. And now that you say that, yesterday in the book 40 Rules of Love, which I'm reading for the third time because it's always so insightful and so soulful. But Rumi's Dervish was saying in it that I'm always, time for me is infinite because I'm always in the present moment. And
Mm,
if you think about it from that perspective, combining the present moment with infinite time, it's a really interesting perspective to kind of to sit on. But that could be a whole other topic. So I think I will bring it back to impact leadership. And I would like to ask you how you believe that we can overcome the fears that we face, both in leadership, but also in our journey in ourselves. And how can we face the future without fear as well, and kind of cut that fear of the future, which of course, now that you mentioned that, many of us do possess that. And a lot, how often, how much time do we spend in the future versus the present moment? And so how
yeah.
would you advise in that?
Yeah, I think the present moment has a big one in there, just to remind ourselves that future didn't happen. Future is not created yet. I'm creating the future from this moment right now. And on a more physiological, like practical level, especially in the sphere of Kundalini yoga, what we do is something that we are trying to do, at least, is to constantly calm our nervous system. Because in this like era driven by digital technologies and so much information overload, our nervous systems operate in a very different way than what they did even 50 years ago. So in that sense, we have a very highly stimulated nervous system. And of course, highly stimulated nervous system is much likely, it's very prone to all these anxieties, all these modern day challenges and issues that we have, like depression, anxiety, loneliness, and so on. So in that sense, having a very calm nervous system, working on that, that's a huge one. And again, living in a present moment and constantly reminding ourselves. So being very mindful about it. And something that, again, that we need to cultivate is this sense of faith and kind of belief, and even hope, as you can say, because hope can sometimes, if we think about it, even in a religious sense, Hope is a huge one. But if we see, there are a lot of examples, for example, of people with so many illnesses. They survived literally by combination maybe of hope and medicine, but some of them, they survived by hope purely. And then there are a lot of other examples, like again, this fate and sense of fate. For example, with the soldiers going to a war and doing all these, saving other people's lives, for example. And usually what they ask them is like, why did you do that? You literally risked your life to save someone else. And then what they say usually is that they say, yes, but this person, I think I have, I believe that they would do the same for me too. So in that sense, there is again this faith and belief that can help us navigate this.
Do you, on that note, do you think fear could also be a habit that we've cultivated?
Yes, definitely. It's one of those habits that, again, our subconscious memories of the past, that we are not maybe even aware, because we didn't scratch what's out there, what's happening deeper down in the whole like fear rabbit hole. But also it's very, I know it's maybe sounds a bit esoteric, but very often we also pick up the fear of the collective,
Mm,
which we all felt during the pandemic, maybe. So that can also happen.
yeah, that's so interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, if you are used to thinking about things a certain way, that also becomes a thought pattern. It becomes a habit in that sense. But what I'm just curious to do a little social experiment in terms of what would happen if for the next week we just believe the best is going to be happening for us, and every time we felt the fear, we replaced it for something that is the total opposite of fear, and found ways to root that in love, and then just see what can happen in our lives for that, like the gratitude journal.
Yeah.
Experiments as well, and how it's been so changing for so many people simply by thinking differently.
Yeah.
They were able to change their external manifestations, their internal wellness, and all that surrounds that.
Yeah, that's a really nice one. And gratitude always amplifies everything. So in that sense, it's a really nice exercise to, again, if you feel the fear coming and arising, you change it into, oh my God, I'm so excited about the future and possibilities. I'm overwhelmed even with possibilities. So again, starting to use the different language, and also cultivating this capacity and this really nice feature that we have. This is basically curiosity, because again, we don't know what tomorrow can bring, but we could maybe start at least explaining that unknown to ourselves in a more curious way. Or yeah, waking up in the morning and see, okay, how amazing this day could be. Let's see how amazing today could be. And then you can maybe have a lot of interesting possibilities.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's my favorite guru, Muji Baba. He's a guru from Jamaica, and he was sitting with an audience of maybe like thousands of people because he's quite well known. And somebody was telling him, "Hey, Muji, like as soon as I became present, everything in life just started to work out for me." And his answer was like, "It's always been working out for you. You just haven't been paying attention to those details. You've been stressed, you've been anxious, you've been in your mind, you've been that Raja's state where you're projecting. And so because you've stepped away from that sattva state where you're calm, you're like that calm lake, you're not able to reflect all the beauty and realities that are happening around you." And I think that's definitely a day-to-day.
That reminds me of something really interesting, is that I didn't mention before. Humans are actually the only creatures that have this capacity to think about the future and the unknown, and to have this, of course, fear of the unknown because of that. And they have this capacity of like projecting ourselves forward in time. Animals, they don't have that, and of course that's why they're always in the present, and they don't have these challenges and issues that we have, that we make ourselves.
Yeah.
Because in that sense, like fear, It's just putting ourselves already out there in time forwards, and we are not there yet physically. So that's why our body reacts, because you're not there, you're in the present, but you're putting, your mind is kind of like transporting you in the future. And of course it feels paralyzing because you're
Wow.
yeah, you're not there.
That's really powerful. And especially when you say like we're creating that. Right? It's not even a reality. Like you're just creating that.
Yeah.
And so, Jovana, on your own life journey, what is it that has crossed your path or that you have experienced that shifted you to become so grounded, one, but at the same time, use, what is the wisdom that you live by? What is it that you use to ground you in your day to day? Because there's so much happening, right? So, what is it for you that keeps you grounded and rooted, and as well keeping that fear at bay in a sense?
Mm. Yeah, I have my little rituals and practice that kind of keeps me, yeah, they keep me sane in this world, because it's also very easy to feel insane in the world we are living in. But basically it's my Kundalini yoga practice. Sometimes it's physical practice like yoga, and sometimes it's meditation. I try to do it every day, first thing in the morning, and then I know, okay, I'm done for today. I don't need to remind myself again to do it. But definitely journaling, because I am someone who has a lot of thoughts, and sometimes I cannot keep track of all of them. And journaling just makes it also nice to put everything that is inside of me out there on the piece of paper. So it's almost like, for brief moments, I'm not carrying these words and these thoughts inside of me. I kind of like put them out there, and then I even forget about them. So yeah, journaling, and yeah, just trying to do these different activities that will keep me in the moment, in the present moment, like walking, or I like swimming, I like gardening. um, yeah.
Amazing. And what do you feel on your life journey so far has been the most profound, or has been the most transformative experience, I would say? But like, or epiphany, let's say. That sounds more tangible in a sentence than, something that you just discovered and you were like, wow, okay, that's a perspective.
I think definitely this that I mentioned before, with the island and ocean.
Mm,
That's why it's so vivid and so clear. That's why I can describe it in this like visual sense, because I kind of experienced during my teacher training. I kind of experienced both, how it is to be, yeah, both the ocean and the island, because very often we operate on a very, again, limited space. Um, and another big one, it was definitely again from the training, from the teacher training, because there was a lot of like deeper work that we had to do as teachers. It was definitely how often we again fear what other people are thinking about us, and
mm,
that sense of self-worth in the whole like equation, and how deep that work is, and how no matter if you're 30 or 70 or 3 years old, you can always dig and explore that part.
mhm. And what advice would you give to someone journeying on that path to evolve and grow and find more groundedness in their path, to be able to lead others with more of a sense of trust and hope and these higher vibration emotions that we talked about today? What would be your advice for someone who would seek that from you?
I would definitely, and I try to also follow my own advice, which is not very easy, but definitely to meet yourself where you are today. Again, something about these versions of us, and us wanting all the time to become better version or next version. It's almost like saying to yourself, I don't like this version. I will like myself when I'm rich enough, successful enough, when I'm in this kind of relationships, circle, so on. So in that sense, like really honoring where you are now, because already while doing that, and if you're doing that, then it's a huge process, because you're just in peace with who you are now. So it's easier to go and progress in the on the journey. But you need to start with acceptance of your own self. That's
I love that. I love that concept of meet yourself.
yeah.
Sophie, meet yourself. Yasmin, meet yourself. Haldora, meet yourself. It's like, what if you met yourself? How would you react to that person? What would you love about them? What would you be like?
Good one.
Because we all have also these inner judgments and these inner critics and these inner thoughts. So if we were to meet ourselves, would we be like, she's kind of annoying? Or would we just totally love that person? And there's just so many dimensions that we can explore simply through that analogy of meeting ourselves and visualizing that and what that would look like. I love that.
Yeah.
And how do you slow down, Jovana?
Slow down.
Mm.
Again, it's a process. It's not like I'm always in the present moment, feeling zen constantly. Again, it's a process of like remembering. And I do try to also, in a way, also surround myself with certain people who would not push me, force me, or even like energetically being buzzy and kind of like yeah, in a way, in a weird way, like subconsciously even activating me. It's more someone who is not in a rush, and who is more yeah, chill about life in general, about their own energy. Because you know, when you meet someone, no matter if it's for the first time or just approach someone, and just their presence, their being gives you anxiety, then you know that of course their nervous system is on a roller coaster. But then you feel it. I mean, some people they don't feel it. I mean, there are many people that are so numb and they don't feel any kind of energy in the room, or they cannot sense what's happening around them, and that's okay. But because again, there are also a lot of oversensitive people who are sensing and feeling everything, which is also, you know, there is a balance between those two. But definitely community helps a lot, and your circle, who you surround yourself with.
Yeah, definitely. And it's so true that you can really feel the energies around you. And if you surround yourself by, like-minded beings who just radiate at the level that you also want to radiate at, it's just a different vibe. I'm not, some of you missed the last session that we had with Benjamin Arno, but I ran into him on Saturday, just sitting in a coffee shop, radiating in a corner. And when I walked away, I had to text him and say, Benjamin, when I left you, I had to take a moment just to absorb your energy. I think that's the power of meditating every single day for the last 5 years and just really living your walk and your talk. But Jovana was with me as well, and we ran into him. But and that's exactly that, surrounding yourself by beings who are radiating and that you can feel the good energy and you can feel that they're doing the inner work, really helps to create that safe and soft space for you as well. And so I know, Jovana, you wanted to do a 3-minute silent meditation with the group today that is about breaking the fear of the future,
It's
right?
it's basically being okay and with the fear of the unknown.
Exactly.
And it's a very nice one. You can of course do it, we can do it silently. You can play the music. We can do it silently today. But it's a very nice one, because also the way we're gonna do it, it's a very soothing position of the hands. And yeah, you can do it in the morning, in the evening, whenever you want. And it's just to remind yourself that we will be okay, whatever happens in the future. So it's a nice reminder, and whatever of course happens and comes to the surface, just observe it almost like a third person looking at it. Don't judge it and be like, you see, I'm doing this, or I'm thinking about this, or I'm not doing this correctly. It's just to be okay where we are now.
Amazing. So how about we do this? We can do the 3-minute meditation all together, and that way everyone that's here can kind of take a moment to absorb kind of the beautiful conversations that we're all sharing together today. And then after that, we will open the floor for some questions, share some questions and exchanges together. And then Jovana, I have one final question for you at the end of their questions, and then we can take our deep breath together and sign off for the summer. How does that sound?
Perfect.
Right. So Jovana, you the mic is yours. You can lead us into this solstice meditation.
So what we're gonna do first, I'm gonna show you the mudra, the position of the hand, and it's a very easy one. So basically, what we're gonna do is we're gonna put our left hand on our right, on the top of our right. So like this. So our left is on top and the right is on the bottom. And what we're gonna do is close our right 4 fingers of the right hand, exactly, and bring the 2 thumbs together. They can touch, they don't have to touch, whatever it's naturally for you. So it's basically this one. And we're gonna just bring it to exactly to our chest. We're gonna close our eyes and just be very mindful and aware of your breath. Just for a couple of moments, take deep, long inhales and exhales. And also try to see and to sense and feel how this posture makes you feel. And just focus on your own breathing. Every time your mind wanders off, which is very, very likely that would happen, and that's okay, just bringing back to your own breath. Just have a moment for yourself. And just try to remind yourself where you are right now, the time, space. Now very slowly take a deep inhale and hold that inhale for a moment. Hold the posture and hold the inhale. And very slowly and gently exhale. Put your hands down on your knees or wherever they fall. And slowly you can open your eyes and just maybe reflect and see how just 3 minutes made you feel. And you can always do this meditation longer, 11 minutes or even 31 minutes. Yeah, it's a nice practice to end the day as well.
Just 3 minutes and it's a whole it's a whole new state. So while we're in this calm and blissful state, we can open the opportunity for questions. I'm just going to be quiet as I usually am, and whenever you feel the call for a question, please just open your mic and go for it.
Maybe this meditation put everyone to sleep.
Maybe it answered all our questions. Maybe it's a few more minutes.
I don't have a question, but I just wanted to say that, like, can you hear me?
Yeah, perfectly.
It felt like I was hugging myself. Like it was really, really beautiful. I was like, oh, this is nice.
Yeah.
Really, really nice.
That's actually really nice to hear, because usually this mudra is very soothing, is very exactly, and especially when we wanted to put ourselves into the heart center, and then it makes sense if that felt like a hug. That's really nice.
So I think they are super relaxed. No questions before we wrap up. All right. So Jovana, my final question for you today is: for the rest of 2022, what word will you be living by, or what word will you refer to keep you grounded?
I need to think about that one. That will keep me grounded. I think I also started this year with the intention of, what was my, I didn't have one word, but I had the intention of enjoying the fruits of my labor. Yeah, that was the one. I think I would definitely, I can keep that one. I can keep, yeah, just being really focused on my own self and on my own, yeah, journey, wherever life throws me. Yeah, reminding myself that in every path and in every on every journey, I can have these fruits of my own labor, and I can always encounter something. There will be fruits out there.
Amazing. And I
If that
think
makes sense.
say that again.
So if that makes sense, but yeah.
I think enjoying the fruits of your labor makes total sense, because so often when we reach a milestone or we have things to celebrate, we're just already looking at the next step, and so really stopping to say, "Hey, I did that."
Yeah,
that's
because also this year 2022 is a very, already we feel it. I mean, next week, well, it's not next week, but we're going to soon be in July. And I sometimes ask myself what happened with this year, because it's a very quick movement and very quick, fast year. It's very different from 2020 and 2021. So 2022 is a very, there are a lot of happenings, personal level and global level, a lot of changes.
And so I think because this is the last session that we will share together before we take a pause for the summer, I would love, before we take our community deep breath together, to go to each and every single one of you and have you share your word that you will take with you for the rest of the year. And so if I go first, I would definitely say slow. I want to continue to reap the virtues of slow, understand what slow can offer me, and also understand how it can teach me in its ways. So I will just follow the flow that I see here. Haldora, what about you?
Definitely slow, but also just like mindful, I would say.
Nice.
Be more mindful of now and here, and not be thinking about what I'm gonna do the next month or.
Amen. Thank you. Yasmin, what about you?
I think I don't really have a word. I would just say like listen to my body, just like whatever feels right in the moment, to like slow down or just like take it easy.
That's a good one. Georgina, what about you?
Mine would be trust.
Trust.
That's what would be. Um, yeah, I think trust will helping around.
Georgina, your voice is just a little far away. Is there a chance to come a bit?
I know. Sorry, I'm in such a bad situation for Zoom today.
Yeah. No, we still can't hear you. But the word is trust. We'll take your word at trust. And Bhavna, what about you?
Sorry, is it better now?
Oh, yes, it is.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. My sound is so off. I'm like not in a Zoom place today. Yeah, my word was trust. I think trust for situations and happenings around me, and then also just for my like internal compass, but also my internal dialogue.
So we have reap the fruits of your labor, go slow, be mindful, listen to your body, and trust. And Bhavna, what about you?
My word's going to be intentional, and that stems a little bit from what Jovana touched on, which was this year does feel a lot like it's going by a lot swiftly compared to the last 2 years. And I think that speed can also just drag you into a sense of numb where you're just going and you don't really know where you're going, how you're going. So intentional and just a lot of things and new habits to work towards. So everything with intent.
Love that. That's a good one. And Kristen, what about you?
Yeah, I think my word would be trust as well. Just trust myself.
And Opie?
I want my word to be slow, but I'm finding it really hard to be slow right now. I'm finding like everything I'm learning from this group and you, Farah, is really hard to put into process at the moment because like work's so overwhelming. So I'd say like, I guess journey, because I'm not where I want to be right now, and I'm just gonna like flow in this journey and do the best I can right now. Yeah, and just get through it while trying to be slow sometimes.
Yeah, that gave me the goosebumps. I think you're on your way.
Yeah, it's been very insightful.
And Chloe, what about you?
My word for the rest of the year is home. And yeah, like really cultivating inner home and making myself home wherever I am.
That's a good one.
Nice.
Because we're always looking for the next location, the next destination to make us feel something or be something or whatever it may be. This one for me. And Anna, finale.
I think for me it would be to be proud of myself and what I achieved. So what you said before, to honor where you are now, I think that really resonated with me. And yeah, so being proud of myself.
Beautiful. So we have our words, we have our intentions, we have our paths. So let's take a deep breath together. I will just, all your mics can be on if it's accessible to you. And if everyone will just close their eyes and just get ready to take the most rejuvenating breath you've taken maybe this week for some of us. So let's just prepare and then take a deep breath in. You can hold it at the top for a few moments. Maybe take an extra sip of breath. And just let it out. You can sit for a few moments and when you're ready. So relaxing, relaxing ending. Now we can kind of just flow into the rest of the day or evening, wherever we are. Jovana, thank you so much for sharing your time and space and wisdom and knowledge with us. It's so good to have you here. And we hope that you will come back and join us again some other time.
Thank you. Thank you, Fran. Thank you, everyone. It was a really pleasant experience.
So much. Have a beautiful day. Night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.